Now for global business updates, Rotus Oddiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abasi, Vimbai, Rufai, all our viewers out there. It's Friday the 13th, huh?
But I thought you weren't superstitious.
No, it's just something you just point out. It's all about oil today because what else impacts the entire globe? So here's Benjamin Netanyahu, justifying Operation. Is it Lion? Rising Lion. There he is.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival.
So, price oil, it spiked about 13%, but it's now come down to about 6% last we checked. So 73.55 for Brent, West Texas 70. But look at Nigeria's benchmark. Just like that, you have the biggest jump not since Russia invaded Ukraine, March of 2022. So just like that, you're almost at Nigeria's benchmark. JP Morgan released a note yesterday, and they're saying that worst case scenario, if things just really lose control, we could see about $130 per barrel of oil. The Gulf states, they've come out one after the other, and you had Saudi Arabia saying this was a blatant attack, a violation of Iran's sovereignty. Oman said it was reckless and dangerous. UAE said there's a deep concern what has been done. Jordan has said there's regional stability implications. You have to think about the amount of barrels of oil that are in this particular region, and the fact that if Iran has come out to say that the U.S. they knew this was going to happen. So U.S. bases in each of those areas are at risk, and also oil supplies are at risk. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the Strait of Hormuz and whether or not hardliners in Iran will want to carry out attacks on ships that are going through there. And this is part of the reason why oil came down. What traders are rationalizing is that, and we need to go back to the Strait of Hormuz, because about 1/4 of oil supplies pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, who buys Iranian oil? It's China. If they attack, they are likely to anger their allies in China. They are likely to anger the Russians. Iran, I think they do about 3.4 million barrels per day. They are hoping to get to 4. Sanctions have reduced their output to about 1.6, but they're still able to sell shadow fleets. So this, the initial 13% spike, people were talking about the Strait, but they're like, if they do that, it will even hurt them as well, because much of their oil supplies go through there. But again, it remains to be seen. There's a lot of uncertainty in the air. Meanwhile, the equity markets to watch are particular sectors. So, yes, oil is up, but energy stocks are in focus. So higher oil, of course, is revenue for energy players, and your Shells, your BPs, and so on. Airlines are going down because higher oil is a tax on airlines. You were talking about the tragic crash in India. Boeing stock fell when this happened. Of course, as already been pointed out, the Dreamliner 787 actually had a spotless record from its launch in 2011 up until yesterday, right? But Boeing stock still fell. Oil stocks are falling because there's less travel. Defense aerospace is going to go up because of the implications for heightened tensions and so on and so forth. Yeah. And then we just talked about the Strait of Hormuz and then the Red Sea. So you expect stocks like Merck's and so on to fall. So shippers, everybody, these are the sectors that folks are going to be watching through the day. But then beyond that is also the central bankers, right? We are in a period where, and this is very interesting, Trump has been pressuring Mr. Powell and his board of governors to cut rates. The ECB with Christine Lagarde has been talking about inflation, which has actually been decelerating in the EU. You've got the Bank of Japan. They're meeting. In fact, the U.S. and Japan are meeting next week for the June meetings, respectively. The Bank of Japan literally just came out just yesterday talking about how they see inflation inching up as a result of wages. You've also got the Bank of England, who Bailey was talking about inflation climbing slightly. None of them have this. I mean, they're all hedged against geopolitical concerns. But if you have oil prices spiking, then now that is going to translate into higher energy prices, which is going to pressure inflation and force every central banker that's been looking at easing to now turn hawkish and have to raise prices, which is why the reports that America actually knew about this attack and Trump knew before it happened, the implications on energy and what Trump is trying to do with reducing prices in America, there's going to be, the implications are going to be there. Let me just remind everyone, we looked at CPI in the US and the particular movers. Remember, look at gasoline. Gasoline fell by 2.6%. So the pass-through effect is lower energy prices, which Trump likes to talk about. If Iran, goes guns blazing and in fact, I understand that they've already sent drones over to Israel. They've closed a number of airspaces. Jordan has closed its airspace. UAE has closed its airspace. That's an impact for travel going to Dubai. If that happens, you're going to have a pass-through effect of higher energy prices. But hey, there's always a flip side, right? What does this mean for us here in Nigeria and other countries? Dark joke. People used to say, you want crisis in the Middle East because it's good for oil prices, for your infrastructure, and for your fiscal structure.
Well, you pay for it at the pumps.
Thank you. So it's always
a double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword. So while you've got all these infrastructure projects we have, if oil goes to 130, that is fantastic for Nigeria. But as Rufai has pointed out, your Dangote refineries, NNPC, they will raise prices. So,
because see subsidy
more,
somewhere, you pay for it.
It's one or the other. Finally, since I mentioned NNPCL, if they've gone back to monthly reports, we're getting monthly reports now with the new board, new leadership at the NNPCL. So for April, revenues are 5.8 trillion, profits of 748 billion. They said average oil production was 1.6. Remember, we want to get to 2. Average gas, about 7.47 million standard cubic feet per day. And then they're also looking at FIDs, final investment decisions, for the fourth quarter of this year. So there's the Intoken Development Project, OML 102. There's the Crude Oil Expansion Project, OML 29, 30, 42, and then a Brass Fertilizer Project. Basically, they're aiming for these FIDs, these final investment decisions, to kick in the fourth quarter. So it's all oil everywhere. I have to see how
oil
things
everywhere.
happen. Yeah.
Okay, so at least we are getting close to our budget benchmarks, looking good. But let's not also forget, we also pay for it too.
That's how it is
at
now.
the pumps.
That's the reality.
Subsidy.
Yeah.
I like to quote François de la Rochefoucauld a lot. He says, hypocrisy is the homage vice pays to virtue. People that have vices want to act like they're virtuous, isn't it?
Yep.
That's the hypocrisy America is doing today. And Israel. So Israel has the temerity to strike nuclear sites in Iran.
And there are talks going on.
Wait now, let me give you the full dose.
Yeah.
When Iranians have actually discovered that Israel has nuclear weapons, based on their research. So, based on the research, I will have to peer review Iranian research. But based on the research and conversations, the same thing Israel has, it is bad for Iran to have it. You can see the inequity in the world today.
Yeah.
And these same Americans, with the hypocrisy they preach every time, Israel can commit any atrocity possible. It's no problem. They will back them up. Both Republicans and Democratic government will always back them up. The other day, it was said that one of the American presidents was cursing out at Netanyahu. But he's so afraid when it comes to the public, they will show solidarity. In fact, the only person that gave it to Netanyahu when Netanyahu came to the White House was Kamala Harris.
That's right.
That was the only person that was bold enough. But guess what? She suffered it. Yeah. Those were also the factors why she was voted against. Yeah. Apart from other factors, see, the truth is Democratic Party not try you. But those were also part of the factors, because when you look at the American system and the deep state and the ecosystem, it tilts towards Iran. So there's a lot of hypocrisy going on. As regards all of this, it's going to be a zero-sum game. Because you're going to have reactions. Probably maybe the Houthi rebels will be warming up from Yemen. Strait of Hormuz will be back and forth and all of that. And like you said, stocks are already going to go up in the military sector. Also in the electric sector. When you go and check stocks of companies like Leonardo and Rheinmetall now, it's goodness me, it's pushing up gradually. So let's just keep looking at the hypocrisy the world is doing. And congrats to NNPC on all of this. We're looking at these FIDs and all of farmers' president decisions and the likes. But we need accountability across board. They should also tell us in the report, are those refineries working? What is the forensic analysis of how the subsidy regime was handled in the last dispensation up to when the last administration left the NNPC?
Well said, well said.
I'd also just like to know how much oil we still owe. You know, how much of that output,
For the
because
loans,
the 1.
right?
Yes, because the 1.6 includes condensate.
Yeah.
But we'd also like to know of the various loans that we've taken out, how many thousands of barrels per day are still committed. What's the actual, you know, barrel per day that we are getting that belongs to us?
Yeah.
I think that breakdown. I think there's a way to go around about it. If you look at the numbers, there's a way to. It's a long math, but there's a way to do it, and the new ones coming in as well that are currently being negotiated. But on Iran, I mean, listen, it's Marco Rubio is at pains to try and separate the United States from that Israeli attack, but what it just goes to show you is this type of aggression shown while Donald Trump is trying to have negotiations. It just shows that there's a total breakdown between the relationship between the U.S. and Israel. Like Rufai said, they'll only allow that to play out behind the scenes, but now it's being exposed in the public space. Listen, Donald Trump, as erratic as he is, the one thing that I do believe about him is that he is not trying to get dragged into a war.
Right.
However, this, unfortunately, is highly likely to drag him into a war and is going to destroy all of the gains and all of the plans, MAGA plans he has. So it will be interesting to see how he manages this situation while still trying to make America great again.
Okay, there's no doubt that the oily business in the Middle East is likely to produce an explosive situation, to the extent that Iran is, with its axis of resistance, promising retaliation. Now, tensions did not flare up in October, which was the last time Israel attacked Tehran. But this time around, the outcome may be different. And that is why investors in the oil and gas sector are watching the situation very closely to see what will happen within the next 1 or 2 days. Now, we have cited on this table the effect on Brent crude and also on WTI, oil prices going up. Well, the thing is, the cost of crude oil will affect everything from food to how much you put in your car. It's not right to say, oh, Nigeria will meet its benchmark of $75 per barrel. Yeah. Well, you will pay more for it. And in any case, don't let us think that the escalation is already given.
Right.
So it may not happen. There may be a de-escalation, depending on what happens. But at the heart of it, again, is international law. You recall there's something called the non-nuclear proliferation treaty, the NPT, which countries signed to prevent countries from, exceeding a level for uranium enrichment. Then with Iran, there is what they call the JPCA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan Action. Yeah. That particular agreement, Iran has consistently breached it since 2019. And why is that the case? Because Iran is saying that why should others have uranium enrichment? It is important for our own economic survival and national security. The same national security that Netanyahu is quoting under Operation Rising Lion. However, the US, being an ally of Israel, if there is this escalation, Israel will have no option but to get involved in the war. And that is where, the rest of us will have to worry. As for the markets, Asian markets fell. Yep. They were mixed on Monday, they rose on Tuesday. Now, as at this morning, Asian markets fell from mainland China to South Korea to Australia to India's Nifty 50. Stock prices on Wall Street rose, S&P and all of that, but that's not because of the war. That's because of the PPI that came in at 0.1%, lower than the 0.2 expected. So that's the reality.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.